Hey guys, I'm Megan Lewis, and I'm going to be talking about gender issues in a disaster. Gender is a factor that is often ignored during a disaster. However, more recent studies have focused on looking at a disaster as a process rather than a singular event. From a gender studies perspective, disasters are viewed as a gender-constructed process. Gender issues are brought on by seeing disasters from this perspective. Because societal processes become more visible during times of trouble, the underlying social structures of society become visible as well. Since men and women have different needs and face different challenges in society, a gender-neutral response does not typically work during a disaster. The provision of assistance, like healthcare, can be negatively affected because of gender roles and rules in place prior to the emergency situation. An example of this was when disasters hit during the Taliban regime, when women could not be examined by male doctors. So clearly, government or local policies in a society may disagree with generalized humanitarian intervention based on equality of life without any regard for identities of gender. This failure to adjust gender will result in a reduction of helpful actions during a disaster, since much of the population faces additional consequences. Gender can also play a part in societal transformations. This goes both ways. Emergencies can possibly present opportunities for change and improvement for gender equality in a society. Reconstruction of gender roles can take place in some cases. An example of this would be when the Nepalese Civil War happened. Many women were made widows by the disaster and were forced by tradition to wear white saris. The women fought gender inequality by peacefully refusing to succumb to that role and changing their gender role in society. However, deconstruction is an issue as well. A disaster can have the opposite effect on gender equality. For example, after the October 2015 earthquake in Afghanistan, women were blamed for the loss of 1,500 lives. That society believed that the earthquake was punishment for the women dressing unmodestly. This ultimately only strengthened the society's beliefs about gender roles. This shift in social landscape can threaten pre-existing gender norms. And furthermore, violence is one of the largest gender issues that come along with disasters. Disasters tend to increase violence anyway, but people may get violent in order to restore or exaggerate gender roles that were in place beforehand. Disasters bring on an increase in a variety of things like domestic violence, sexual abuse, exploitation, and many other nasty things. Unfortunately, women tend to be the targets of these issues a lot of the time. Women then begin to feel vulnerable, so vulnerability becomes an issue, and sometimes this issue is met with action. For example, after the Sri Lankan tsunami of 2004, a program was created to begin a help network and a place to formally document incidences of violence. This is clearly a pressing issue when it comes to gender roles and disasters. It is important to consider all of these issues when looking at this from a gender issues perspective and when dealing with some of the world's worst disasters.